I'll be straight with you from the very beginning. When I walked out my back door that morning, coffee scorching my tongue, boots only half tied, mind still foggy from sleep, I was not prepared for what I saw. I did not expect a full-scale luxury wedding unfolding on my land. Not a few folding chairs and a cooler. Not a casual backyard ceremony with a pastor and some lemonade. I'm talking white event tents stretched across my pasture, crystal chandeliers dangling from oak branches, a string quartet tuning up like they were about to perform at Carnegie Hall, champagne towers stacked higher than my hay bales. And right in the center of it all stood her, Melissa Crawford, president of the Silver Pines Homeowners Association, planted in my field like she owned it, hands on her hips, designer sunglasses, clipboard tucked under her arm, barking orders at 20 different people at the same time. Move that arch 2 feet left. No, not that table, the other one. Careful with the linens. Those cost more than your truck. I just stood there on my porch for a solid 10 seconds, trying to figure out if I was still asleep, because last time I checked, that land belonged to my family. 3 generations deep. My granddad cleared it. My dad fenced it. I maintained it. Every fence post, every irrigation line, every muddy corner where the cows like to nap. I knew that land like I knew my own hands. And now it looked like Pinterest had detonated across it. So I walked down there slowly, quietly, heart thudding harder with every step. When I finally reached the edge of the chaos, I cleared my throat and said, "Ma'am, what exactly do you think you're doing on my property?" She turned and smiled, that tight, fake corporate smile people use when they think they're smarter than you. And she said, "Oh, relax, Caleb. This is community land now. Community land. On my deed. On my tax bill. In my grandfather's will." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't about a wedding. This was about power. Let me rewind a bit, so you understand how we got here. My name's Caleb Turner. I've lived in western Nebraska my entire life. 200 acres of pasture, some corn, some cattle, one red barn older than most politicians, and a windmill that squeaks every time a wind gets emotional. For most of my life, it was quiet, peaceful. My closest neighbor used to be half a mile away. The loudest thing I heard at night was crickets and my dog snoring. Then about 6 years ago, the county sold off a chunk of land next to mine. Developers move in. Bulldozers, surveyors, billboards promising luxury country living. And just like that, Silver Pine subdivision was born. 200 shiny houses, gray roofs, white fences, perfect lawns. People who wanted a farm lifestyle, as long as it didn't smell like one. At first, I tried to be friendly. I brought over eggs, shared honey, waved when they walked their dogs past my fence. Most folks were fine. Polite, a little awkward around cows, but fine. Except Melissa. She entered my life like a thunderstorm with a law degree. The first time I met her, she drove up in a spotless SUV, rolled her window down halfway, stared at my pasture like it was a crime scene, and said, "Do you realize your cows are visible from our cul-de-sac?" I laughed, thought it was a joke. She didn't laugh back. That was red flag number 1. After that, the complaints poured in. Manure smell, tractor noise, rooster crowing, haystacks ruining the view, my barn lowering property values. One time she emailed me, yes, emailed, asking if I could relocate my livestock on weekends, like they were furniture. Every HOA meeting she ruled like a dictator with lip gloss, grass height, mailbox color, approved flower species. People whisper about her in grocery stores, but nobody challenged her because she loved paperwork, loved lawyers, loved power. My land sat just outside HOA boundaries, which to her felt like a personal insult. She tried everything, letters, warnings, friendly reminders. One time she even left a notice on my gate that read, "Please maintain acceptable community odor levels." I framed it and hung it in my barn. Still have it. Then came the wedding. About a month before all this, I noticed orange survey flags popping up near my north pasture. Didn't think much of it at first. Figured the county might be working on drainage. So I walked over. 2 guys with clipboards were measuring and marking. I said, "Morning, fellas. What's this about?" One of them looked nervous. "We're, with the Silver Pines Event Committee. Event committee. On my land. I laughed and told them the field was mine. They packed up within 10 minutes. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, Melissa caught me at the mailbox. Big smile. Caleb, we're planning something special. My daughter's wedding. Rustic theme. Open fields. Natural beauty. You'd love it. I told her I don't rent my land. Her smile vanished. You're not being very neighborly. I said, I'm not in your HOA. She stormed off, heels clicking, and apparently decided that meant yes. Fast forward to that Saturday. Generators humming, music drifting, workers everywhere. Delivery vans had driven straight through my gate. Cables were strung across my fence. Holes dug clean to my irrigation line. One guy even asked me where to place hay bales. I told him, I'm the owner. He went pale. Said Melissa told them everything was approved. Then she appeared, latte in hand, smug as ever. Isn't it beautiful? She said. Such a waste for cows. I told her to leave. She laughed, told the workers to ignore me, said I was bluffing. So I pulled out my phone and started recording. Every word, every order, every lie, because something inside me went quiet. That dangerous quiet, the kind that means you've stopped arguing and started planning. That night I called the county, checked my boundaries, printed my parcel map, and called Sheriff Mark Reyes, an old friend. He sighed when I told him. Not Melissa again. He told me the truth. Civil issue, my land, my rights. Just don't do anything stupid. I looked out at the glowing tents and smiled. Define stupid. Because in my barn sat a John Deere, and behind it was a manure spreader, full and ready. That night I barely slept. Cows restless, lights flickering, music echoing. My land had become someone else's stage. And I promised myself that by tomorrow, they were going to learn exactly what boundaries smelled like. All right, pause. Before I tell you what I did next, let me explain something real quick, because this part matters more than the manure. According to standard procedure, a homeowners association has exactly zero authority outside its recorded boundaries. Zero. They don't get bonus land because something looks empty. They don't get temporary control because there's a wedding. And they sure as hell don't get to rewrite county maps with confidence and a clipboard. From a legal standpoint, what Melissa did was textbook trespassing. Not, oops, wrong driveway trespassing, but deliberate, organized, commercial-level trespassing. HOA permits are worth less than the paper they're printed on once you cross that fence line. Now, psychologically, this is a psychological trap a lot of people fall into once they get a taste of power. They start believing their authority is portable, that if they say something loudly enough, confidently enough, and often enough, it somehow becomes reality. It's called entitlement escalation. They stop asking. They start declaring. And most people back down, which teaches them that it works. The lesson here is simple. If you don't document, don't verify, and don't know your rights, you become an easy target. And Melissa thought I was easy. She was wrong. Sunday morning arrived quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that settles in your bones and tells you something big is coming, even if you can't see it yet. Fog still hugged the pasture when I stepped onto my porch with a fresh cup of coffee. Cool air. Wet grass. That clean farm smell I'd grown up with. Except now it was mixed with perfume, hairspray, and leftover arrogance. Out there in the distance, glowing pale in the early dawn, the tents were still standing. Still perfect. Still sitting on my land like they'd always belonged there. Nobody had cleaned up. Nobody had moved a single thing, which told me everything I needed to know. They were coming back. Same place, same assumption, same disrespect. I took a long sip of coffee and whispered, "All right, let's get to work." Ranger, my old shepherd mix, trotted up beside me, tail wagging like he knew today was different. Inside the barn, the air was thick with hay and diesel, that familiar smell of honest labor. My John Deere sat there like it always had, green paint chipped, seat cracked, dependable. Behind it waited the manure spreader, fully loaded and still warm, courtesy of Daisy and the rest of the herd. Nature's finest contribution. I climbed up and turned the key. The engine rumbled to life, low, steady, like it was waking up for something important. And in a way, it was. I drove slowly down the dirt path. Didn't rush. Didn't sneak. Didn't hide. The tractor's sound cut through the morning like a declaration. Birds scattered. Cows lifted their heads. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. When I reached the edge of the venue, I stopped for a moment and looked. White chairs lined up in perfect rows. The flower arch still standing. Tables set for brunch. Champagne glasses catching the sunlight. Speakers waiting to blast music. It looked like a magazine cover. A lie built on someone else's ground. I thought about Melissa's smile. Her laugh. Her community land speech. The way she waved me off like I was a fly. That memory flipped a switch. All right, I said, let's make it real. I eased forward and pulled the lever. The spreader roared to life. The first wave hit like a brown waterfall. Thick, wet, heavy, splattering across white fabric like paint. Only louder, smellier, and far more honest. I drove slow circles, careful and methodical, like mowing a lawn, except instead of grass, I was laying down consequences. Chairs disappeared under layers of fertilizer. Tablecloths sagged. Flower petals turned brown. The arch dripped. The dance floor vanished. And the smell, man, it didn't creep in. It punched you in the face. Sharp, warm, unmistakable. Farm truth. Ranger barked from the fence line, like he was cheering me on. I almost laughed. By the time the spreader ran dry, everything was coated. Complete. Undeniable. I shut off the engine, climbed down, and stood there with my hands on my hips, surveying the scene. It was awful. It was beautiful. It was justice. I walked over to their fancy wooden sign. Welcome to the Crawford wedding. Picked it up, wiped some mud off, set it back in the ground, then hung my own little hand-painted board underneath it. Private property. Trespassers get fertilized. I took pictures. Lots of them. Wide shots. Close-ups. Panoramas. Insurance-grade evidence. Then I went back to my porch, poured more coffee, sat down, and waited. The first arrival was a catering van. Two guys jumped out laughing, then stopped mid-step, mid-sentence. One of them gagged. Actually gagged. "What is that?" he said. They took about 10 more steps, turned around, sprinted back into van, and peeled out like they'd seen a ghost. Next came the florist. Same reaction. Shrieked, hands over her nose. Then they were gone. And then came the convoy. SUVs, sedans, the limo, the whole Crawford clan rolling like royalty. Melissa's car led the pack. She stepped out first. Pink blazer, oversized hat, full confidence, right up until the smell hit her. Her face folded like paper meeting fire. "Oh my God," she screamed. Her daughter stepped out next, lifted her dress, looked down, realized what she was standing in, shrieked, and stumbled backward. The groom swore loud enough for everyone to hear. I leaned back in my chair, took another sip of coffee, and enjoyed the show. Melissa stormed toward the field, heels sinking with every step. "What is this?" she yelled. "Who did this?" I raised my hand. "Morning, Melissa." She spun around. You ruined everything." I shrugged. "Looks natural to me." "You're a monster. From a legal perspective." I said calmly, "I'm fertilizing my land." Her face turned purple. She started screaming about money, about lawyers, about arrests. I pulled out my phone and played yesterday's video. Her voice filled the air. "This is community land now." Silence followed. People stared, whispered, murmured. A few snickered. Melissa froze. Right then, Sheriff Reyes rolled up. Slow. Calm. He took in the scene, snorted, almost laughed. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked. Melissa pointed at me like I'd committed murder. "He destroyed our wedding." Mark sniffed the air. "Ma'am, this is his property. He ruined our decorations. You put them here. No permit, no lease, no agreement." He watched my videos, nodded. "Looks clean to me." "To you, maybe," she screeched. "To the law," he replied. Case closed. That was it. Her empire collapsed in about 12 seconds. People started leaving fast. The DJ abandoned his equipment. The photographer packed up. Guests fled. The bride cried inside the limo. The groom cursed everyone in sight. Melissa stood there shaking. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Oh," I said, "I'm counting on it." She stomped off, stepped straight into fresh manure, screamed again, and slammed the car door. Gone. By noon, my road looked like the exit of a failed carnival. Expensive cars fleeing, windows down, people gagging. The field sat silent, brown, stinking, peaceful, and mine. Mark took a coffee, shook my hand. Hell of a way to make a point. Had to be memorable. He laughed, drove off, and I finally let myself breathe. That afternoon, my phone exploded. Someone had filmed it and posted it. Farmer teaches HOA a lesson. 20,000 views. Then 50. Then 200. By evening, reporters were calling. By night, the HOA was imploding. Emergency meetings. Furious board members. Melissa exposed. 2 days later, she was removed publicly, humiliatingly. A week later, she tried to sue. Her lawyer quit because evidence doesn't lie. And just like that, the woman who thought she owned everything couldn't even own her mistake. After everything settled, after the cars disappeared, after the reporters stopped calling, after HOA meetings turned into shouting matches without my name in them, life on the farm went back to normal. And out here, normal means quiet. Sunrise, roosters, coffee on the porch, cows moving slow like they've got nowhere important to be. That field, the one that caused all the trouble, grew back greener than anywhere else. Thicker, healthier, like nature itself was laughing with me. Sometimes I'd stand by the fence and look at it and think how funny it is that disrespect poisons things, but accountability makes them grow. People ask me all the time if I regret it, if I feel bad, if I do it differently now. I always pause before answering, because the truth is I didn't want revenge. I wanted respect. There's a difference. Revenge is emotional. Respect is structural. Revenge fades. Respect stays. From a legal perspective, I never crossed a line. I stayed on my land. I documented everything. I followed the rules. That's why I slept just fine afterward. No guilt, no fear, no what-ifs, just peace. And according to standard procedure, that's how it's supposed to work. Know your boundaries. Protect them without becoming what you hate. What really stuck with me, though, was what happened afterward. Letters started showing up. Emails, messages from people all over the country. Homeowners, renters, farmers, apartment folks, all dealing with their own Melissa, their own power-hungry neighbor, their own unfair rule, their own silent frustration. One guy wrote, "My HOA fined me for putting up an American flag." Another said, "They tried to ban my vegetable garden." A woman told me, "They control when I could sit on my own balcony." Every message carried the same feeling. I thought I was powerless until I saw your story. That hit me hard because this was never about manure. It was about reminding people of something simple. You're allowed to stand up. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect what's yours without screaming, without threats, without becoming cruel. This is another psychological trap people fall into. Thinking resistance has to be loud, violent, or ugly. It doesn't. Sometimes the strongest response is calm preparation, evidence, patience, timing. The lesson is this: boundaries don't defend themselves. People do. A few months later, the new HOA president came by. Nice guy. Brought pie. Apologized. Said they'd rewritten their bylaws. Clearer limits, more transparency, less ego. He said something that stuck with me. "We forgot we're guests on this land." That's true. All of us are. Even me. I don't own this earth. I just take care of my piece of it for a while. And that means respecting other people's pieces. 2. I ran into Melissa once after everything. Grocery store. She looked smaller, quieter, tired. She said I embarrassed her. I told her she embarrassed herself. We left it at that. She moved away not long after. No drama, no celebration, just closure. These days I've got a new fence, stronger, higher, with little wooden plaques that say, "Respect boundaries, grow peacefully." People laugh when they see them. I don't explain. Those who know, know. So if you're watching this and deal with your own version of the story, maybe it's an HOA, Maybe it's a landlord, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a boss, someone who keeps stepping over lines. Here's what I learned. Don't explode. Outthink. Outlast. Outgrow. Document. Learn the rules. Use them. Stay human. Stay grounded. Stay patient. Because fairness doesn't always show up fast, but it shows up eventually. And sometimes it rides on a tractor at sunrise. Now I'm curious. Have you ever had to stand up to someone who thought they owned you? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk. Because nobody should feel powerless in their own space.